There's a whole bunch of reasons why this makes way more sense than steel tubing.
Welcome back for another Tips and Tools Tuesday with your host Anthony Bronner from Hardcore Fab.
So what is this stuff exactly? Well, it's probably best to start off with what it is not. It is not just some regular copper tubing that you'll find in your house. Copper tubing that's in your house is not going to be rated for any kind of pressures like what you would need for, say, like a brake line system. It's also not going to have quite as thick a wall, so that's going to make it a lot more prone to when you're having something like, say, in a vehicle where you've got a lot of vibrations and things like that, where you might have one actually crack. It's also a little bit harder to flare and stuff like that and keep it from cracking when you're doing that as well. So this is a lot better than just plain old regular copper, because this is 90% copper, but it also has 10% nickel added to it. And when you combine those two things together, you start to get some pretty cool features to come into play. Now, for instance, one of the first things that come to mind is its corrosive resistance. You've already got copper right there to begin with. That's not going to rust and corrode up like you would on a normal steel line. And then you throw something like nickel into the mix. Then you think about nickel when you throw it in with steel and you get stainless steel, how strong and how resistant that is. Then you get pretty much that same effect with the copper. It makes it even better. So the corrosive resistance is going to be one of the biggest things right off the bat. You're not ever going to have a rusty brake line ever again. And speaking of brake lines, this stuff is DOT approved for brake lines, so that's pretty awesome just there in itself. But you could also use this for some fuel lines or training lines or anything else like that that you might need. So that's all fine and good, but how is it to work with? Well, when's the last time that you could just do this with some of your regular brake line or any other steel line and just kind of fold it and put it into place like you need to with your fingers? If you start doing that with steel line, you're going to kink it all up and it's going to be a mess, and you're not going to be able to bend it that easily actually either. Now, just because we bent it doesn't mean that it's stuck in that position. We can just fold it right back out to where it needs to be and put a bend somewhere else if we need to. So bending it is really easy. Then, of course, you could use tools and all that stuff and make it even better and a little bit straighter, but I straightened that all right back out after putting it into a 90, so that's pretty awesome. So yeah, it bends great. Actually rolled right back up into a roll. Can't do that with steel tubing very easily. So your next question is probably going to be, how does it flare? Well, I actually just made a video on that I'm going to be posting the same time as I'm posting about this. So I'll put you guys a link to that up here. You guys can go check it out. And while you're there, think about, if you would, please subscribe to the channel and go ahead and hit that bell next to it so that you get notifications of when more videos like this come out. And if you think I've earned it in this one, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button down there below. That also helps the channel out as well. Alright, so let's talk availability and cost. Now, I'm going to be truthful with you. I went to 3 different parts stores before I actually found this here in town. And I'm just in a small town here in Kansas, so I don't have a lot of options here. But I was able to find this in one of the major parts stores that is all across the country. So I think most of you will probably be able to find it as well if you go look. Now, having that said, I didn't take the time to order it beforehand, and I should have, because I actually paid considerably more for this. I think I paid somewhere closer to like $60 for this roll of 25 feet for it and for some ends to go on it. And that's actually kind of pricey, and if I would have ordered it online, I would have actually saved probably closer to half of that anyways. So definitely cheaper to go ahead and try to get this stuff ahead of time and have it here for when you need it. Now, having that all said, I am going to leave you guys a link down below so that you guys can go have a spot where you can go find it a lot easier. So definitely take advantage of that because it'll save you a lot of money. So that might sound a little bit expensive right there. When you start thinking about it though, and you start adding all of the unions and other little pieces of stuff that you need to connect a bunch of little smaller pieces of steel line, say like if you're trying to do a whole chassis like I am here, then I think you probably end up being fairly close to about the same amount of money in the end. But the advantage to this stuff right here is that now you're not going to have all of those splices or all those unions and everything throughout the rest of your chassis. So you have a lot fewer places where you actually could have a failure point, and how much could that be worth to you in the future? And if you compare this to stainless, there's no question this is actually going to be considerably cheaper, and you're also going to have most of the benefits that you're going to have with the stainless as well. So that makes this a pretty good value. So the last thing about this that I like is I actually like the color of the copper. You know, it's a lot better than just plain old regular steel line, and this isn't even rusty yet, so it's going to look even worse here down the line. So I like the way this looks, and it should stay looking like this for quite a long time. So I think that's pretty awesome in itself too. And with that, that's about all I've got to say about copper nickel tubing. So I guess I need to take this stuff and go over here and finish my chassis. And hopefully you guys will see that on the next